So what's on tap for today, folks? Well, it's a house of horrors. And who's that house of horrors for, folks? It's for Kevin McCarthy. That's right. Here you see Kevin McCarthy trying to become the Speaker of the House. And you know what? He's vote shy, about 16 or 17 votes shy, folks, right now, because you've got 19 Republican holdouts that are basically saying, we don't want the same type of rhino. And listen, I've got to say, until proven otherwise, Kevin McCarthy is still part of the DC swamp. Now, I know President Trump has been backing, McCarthy, and I have my reservations on that, folks. I do. I mean, why is it that the elites get to pick this? We elected these people to go to Congress. And now we, the people, are saying, can we have our pick first? Is it possible that we could, just once, could you give us somebody that we wanted? Well, we had to fight and scrap for every single vote in 2016 for President Trump to come true. I mean, that was a fight and a half. We were fighting who at that time? We were fighting the establishment, the Republicans, the rhinos, the Democrats. We were fighting our own Republican Party for that. We were fighting the mainstream media. We were fighting the alphabet networks. We were fighting academia. We were fighting the Hollywoods of the hypocrites in Hollywood. We were fighting world leaders. We were fighting nations. Everybody, every single person, basically, except for those that voted for Trump. I mean, which was sufficient enough to came to victory in 2016. But that was a fight and a half when we finally got our guy, the people's guy, to be into the people's house, the White House. That's what it was all about. Now we're basically saying we don't want another Paul Ryan, want to be another Paul Ryan look-alike. We don't want that. That would be a disaster. Now, I know President Trump said there's a doomsday scenario. We're going to get into all of that. But before we do, folks, before we get into all of this, just wanted to say if it's the first time that you've tuned into the show, we really appreciate you're watching the Dr. Nasir Sheikh Show. I happen to be your guest host today. My name is Dr. Sheikh. And if you haven't already done so, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell, like, share, and follow us. You know what to do. So, as we said, House of Wars here for Speaker. Well, who knows? He wants to be Speaker McCarthy, but right now he's a little bit shy. So let's go ahead and take a look at it and see what's happening so far. Well, as we said here, here's one thing that you got to know. There's 435 members in the House. What's required to achieve a majority is 218, but that can decrease a little bit depending upon if people are there present or, they don't show up. And now, right now, one Democrat congressman has passed away, the late Republican Donald McCeachin from Virginia. So now down to 434 members for a full attendance. Now it could drop low if more Democrats do not show up or if they vote present. Otherwise, if other Democrats do show up, it would still require 218 votes to elect a speaker, and the Democrats have said they're going to stay in full attendance. All right? Now, to give you an idea, here's Matt Gaetz, and Matt is leading part of that 19 vote coalition right now, which is basically saying, Lauren Boebert is part of this and others, and they're saying, we just can't give our votes to the Rhino McCarthy. We just can't do it. It's status quo, business as usual. We don't want that. Now, there have been some people that have floated the idea of perhaps Steve Scalise. Maybe he could come in to be, maybe he would be a candidate. That is a possibility, folks. Steve Scalise could fit that role. I think you would have members within the Republican caucus. I think that they would be amenable to that, but there's going to be some infighting, on this. Now, the other person that people have asked for is for Congressman Jim Jordan of Ohio, but the problem is Jim, he's got 19 votes now. He had 6 in the first round, picked that up in the third round, and I think in the fourth up to 19 votes. The problem is Jim wants to head up the Judiciary Committee, the House Judiciary Committee, which is going to have all the subpoena power and the hearings because he wants to get into this whole Biden, you know, crime family, you know, issues, obviously. And that's what he wants to do. So he says, I don't want to be the speaker. He wants to chair, that committee. So I don't think, unless something unbelievable happens, I just don't think that that's going to happen around. Now, as usual, the Democrats, what do? Well, they've got their election denier, they've got always their fringe candidate that's out there, and so they have now got Hakeem Jeffries, this idiot. All right, but guess what? All 212 Democrats, lockstep, that's right, goose stepping Democrats. They all, 212 votes, put it in for this guy here, Hakeem Jeffries. So, like I said, now this is where they talk about that doomsday scenario, and I will get into that in just a little bit and whatever. So, like I said, Jim Jordan, don't think so. He doesn't want it. Steve Scalise, possibility, could be that candidate if McCarthy looks at the vote count and just said there's no way to get by, there's no way to get past the impasse of these 19 congressmen who are basically saying Republican, they're saying, we're not going to give it to you. It's not going to be business as usual. So let's see this thing here. And now, as we see here, one of McCarthy's top critics is Matt Gaetz. He wasn't too happy also that President Trump's continuing to back McCarthy, at least up until this point. But he said that doesn't change his vote or his support of Trump or anything like that. He just says it's unfortunate, but we just have a completely different opinion on this. Now, McCarthy's team says they're so confident they're going to get the votes. However, Congress is going to be paralyzed until a speaker is elected. The last time a speakership election went more than one ballot was over 100 years ago, folks, in the mid 1800s. And at one time, it went over 100 ballots, and it took months. Now, Matt Gaetz has said that it might be until the cherry blossoms bloom into mid to late spring at the end of March or beginning of April that a speaker is elected. Now, although that would be kind of a very, a very atypical scenario, the chaos that would precede, who knows, what's going to happen. I mean, basically, Congress it's stalled. There's nothing, that can be done. And then the question becomes is what happens with McCarthy if he sees that there's no movement at all, nobody's budging, that these 19 congressmen, and finally, okay, we've got some people with a spine that are at least saying, let's do something different for a time being. That's what this is all about, folks. That's what this is all about. Now, as we go through, we've got some other things to think about. You know what? We've got some new exciting new senators coming in. We've got Ted Budd from Carolina. We've got J.D. Vance from Ohio. Alabama's Katie Britt. Oklahoma's Mullen are taking office. Unfortunately for us, we're still down, by one. It's 51-49 controlled by the Democrats. So we did end up, losing the Senate after it wasn't a tie prior to the, the midterms. But anyways, let's talk about that doomsday scenario, all right, in terms of what they're talking about. So far, 4 rounds have gone by, nothing has happened. As we talked about here, the Democrats, they've nominated Hakeem Jeffries for the speakership. Now, he said the Democrats said they're open to working with the Republicans, but of course, that would have to satisfy some Democrats and a ton of establishment Republicans if that was to do. But he said, we'll look at that. But he said, you know what? There's no proof that the Republicans are willing to engage at this point in time. And as he said on Tuesday, McCarthy was 16 votes shy of the threshold. 20 lawmakers, that's about 10% of the Republican House majority, opposed McCarthy. Now, leave it to AOC. What's she doing? She floated the idea of a unity government. Oh, unity. Aren't these socialist Marxists all about unity? All about kumbaya? Is that really what's going on here? beware, folks, okay? These are just a bunch of snakes in the grass. And she was basically saying it's not outside the realm of possibility, but she said if that idea ever came to fruition, McCarthy, not on the table, not a candidate that the Democrats would back. And she said if that was the case, the Democrats, maybe they would require the Republicans to give some concessions, potentially giving up some committee seats to the Democrats. Oh, look how intelligent and smart she is in maneuvering. But she goes, hey, if we could get some chairs, in the committees, maybe, possibility. So her quote is that she says, this is how she says it now. This is from AOC, the darling of the left. She goes, I do not believe that Kevin McCarthy has the votes. I believe that a lot of the opposition to him is very personal. I believe his leadership style is incompatible with a lot of Republican members and certainly the Democratic caucus, she said. You think, AOC? You think that it's incompatible? It's you know what? It's incompatible, maybe his style of leadership with the with basically those of us that are conservative. I believe so. Those are the moderates, the progressives within the Republicans, the rhinos. Oh, it's perfectly compatible with their style of leadership. Of course it is. We've had that before. But like I said, there's nothing that has shown that Kevin McCarthy is basically, we've heard a lot of talk. Oh, things are going to change, but we've heard that talk before. What are we? We're the Charlie Brown of politics, folks. Every single time we think we're going to kick that football, and what happens? The Republican establishment, they're Lucy, they're the ones holding on to that political football. And as soon as we come up, we think we're going to get it this time. We think we're going to kick that ball right through the uprights, get our points, right? What happened? Pull that football out and we fall straight on our backside. That's exactly what happens. It's all talk. That's it. We never get what we want. Never. Never. So the question becomes, is there anybody that can build a consensus? Well, maybe McCarthy's team, maybe they'll have to look to some Democrats. I don't know. It's just unbelievable here. What could they be doing? But like I said, this Democratic, when they're floating this idea, let's see here, they were going to convene for a fourth round of voting, and it continues. The voting will continue until they call an adjournment, which I don't think, and the Democrats aren't going to want that, I don't think, until a lawmaker basically secures enough votes to meet that threshold. And I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think that's going to happen. Now, the doomsday scenario is that somehow the Democrats and Republicans go and pick some moderate person. And what they might end up doing is saying, in order for that to happen, maybe you're going to have to give up some things and change the rules, the democratic rules of the House and how it operates, and maybe not go after President Biden or Hunter Biden in terms of the investigations or those kind of things. Because remember, you've got to have somebody there as a speaker to bring these up into committees and then to go forward. It has to be some power and some backing for this to continue. So these are some of the things that are in that are in play. Who knows what's going to happen? But for once, who knows? Maybe these 19, maybe they're forced to back down because of some reason. Who knows why? But at least for now, it's great drama. It is showing some, backbone, titanium backbone on these that are basically standing up for what they believe. Let's see what happens or whatever. I would love to see somebody other than I would love to see a Jim Jordan come into play. I myself just don't know who would be somebody that would get the backing of all the Republicans right now. Would it be a Steve Scalise? Is that somebody? But again, you're talking establishment. It hasn't really shown that much in terms of independence, going in terms of the conservative side. Let's see what happens. But right now, a lot of drama. The mainstream press, they seem to be feeding on it as usual and laughing and yucking it up and again, spinning their narrative. But you know what, folks? Hey, if this is what it takes to get what we want, then more power to us and more power to um, the conservative side, and let's hope and see, what's going to happen with this thing here. But I think a little bit of drama is pretty good. And you know what? All this stuff that they're saying that, we're yes, of course, there's division. Of course, that's happening right now. But you know what? It's happening for the right reasons. It's happening for the right reasons because now the people are finally getting a chance to basically say, and I know a lot of you out there are with me on this. Maybe you're not. And listen, you know what? I'd love to have your comments. Put them down below. Do you think that that's what we should do? Concede, have Kevin McCarthy be the speaker for the next 2 years and see what happens again? Is it going to be business as usual? Do you think it's going to change this time? Do you think McCarthy, if he becomes speaker, is going to basically go ahead and roll on the conservative side and the conservative agenda? You know what? A lot of people have said that they're going to do that, and it never, never happens. That's the part. And we always have to take a back seat. We always have to say, okay, fine, go ahead, let's see what happens. And we end up getting the royal shaft, those of us on the conservative side. Anyways, we appreciate you taking the time to watch. You've been watching the Dr. Nasir Sheikh Show here. I was your guest host for today. My name is Dr. Sheikh. And if you haven't already done so, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell, like, share, and follow us. And I'll leave you with my final thought, and that is when you're right, you're right, and when you're left, you're wrong. We'll see you again next time, folks. Take care and stay safe.